This is another vlog. Hey everyone, my name is Charlie and today is Sunday. This is the start of another week of reading vlogs, if this actually works, because as you know, it's just me talking at the camera without any real variation and great stuff. What am I currently doing? I've just recorded the end of last week's vlog, the Cozy Reading Night vlog, as can be shown by me wearing the same jumper. I'm not one of those people who changes jumpers between shots. It's not a whole Bethany Platt case on Coronation Street. I'm here. This is what you get. What have we got going on this week? Tomorrow, I'm not in work because I'm going off to Congleton Library for a event. It's just going to be me reading, chatting and answering questions about Doris Ahoy and hopefully arranging another event for 2 months' time so I can go back and discuss An Heir to Murder. Just showing the second proof copy again. Hopefully, I'll get this sorted this week. I'm not going to do anything with this book until after I've seen Joy on Thursday, because I want some more feedback on this green stripe down the cover. I'm currently working on Royally Doris. I am not that far into chapter 2. I think I've written about 2,000 words of this rewritten second chapter. It's strange for me to be writing the book in the way that I am writing it because I have a lot of it planned. Yet still, there are times when I'm writing that I realise this would be a better point to do something I had planned for later down the line. And this book is also dealing with reintroductions and former characters that we've met in the series who might not have had as big a role, or they've had a bigger role in previous books, but it's been reduced in this one. Whilst I'm writing it, it is feeling like a final book. It's feeling like from the beginning I am not just tying up loose ends, but this story is big. And once again, it takes a village, but not in terms of creating the book, in terms of the characters within the book. Doris is going through another change, a metamorphosis in terms of her character. The humour is still there, I'm not going to lie. It is still that more sedate, subtle humour that I employed for the second and third books. But there are still going to be, hopefully, some laugh out loud moments. So currently we're at about the 14,000 word mark, which means I still have, what, 86,000 words to go if I'm keeping writing at my current chapter length. And I am still reading Night Boat to Tangier. Today I'm going to be editing 2 vlogs, and then I'm also going to be making a lamb dinner, hopefully listening to Masquerade by Terry Pratchett whilst I do that. So yeah, it's Sunday. After we spoke on Sunday, I spent the entire day editing my vlog for last week, which means I still haven't done my Cozy Reading Night vlog, and we're now Tuesday. In the evening, after I made everyone a lamb roast dinner, despite being a vegetarian and not eating it myself, I watched Doctor Who. Not gonna lie, probably the most thrilled I have been at an episode since I was a teenager, so that's a change from last week. And I saw certain people getting upset about certain twists and things that happened in this episode. They were saying that it was a complete retcon of the show. I can't help but feel that all they're doing is finishing off a storyline that started in 1989 and what they would have done with Sylvester McCoy had the series continued. I'm pretty sure you could still read this in like the, was it the Virgin New Adventures? I had my event at Congleton Library for Doris Ahoy, but before that I did stay home and read up to where I was supposed to in Nevernight by Jay Kristoff. I'm just waiting to discuss this with Abby. I'm enjoying it, but I'm struggling to see where the story is going. I've literally no idea what the book is heading towards. So far, Mia training to be this assassin, but as of yet, she has had little training. I'm currently at the page 210 mark. I feel like it's a lot of history, a lot of world building, a tiny bit of intrigue, and I enjoy the narratorial voice, but I'm holding back on this book because I've been disappointed a lot this year, and I feel like this book currently could end up being another disappointment. I'm also still reading Night Boat to Tangier by Kevin Barry. I've only got 100 pages left. Congleton went well, except for at one point let's tell the whole story. I arrived, I parked at my grandmother's house as I did last time, but this time my uncle has his Land Rover in the carport, so I had to park at the end of the road, and I don't like doing that. I don't like parking in front of people's houses that are not related to me. Went to the library, and there's a woman from the Congleton Chronicle there who wants to take my photograph, yet she forgets that she did that a few years ago for the Alsager Chronicle. Either way, I weighed a considerable amount more then, and my hair was longer, which also got brought up. So she got her photograph. She was happy with the photograph. I wasn't happy with the photograph. I don't know whether it's going to make it to the paper, but if it does, please note that I didn't actually speak to them at all about my book. Anything they do say is complete hearsay. I mentioned that because of another thing I want to say about newspapers at a later date. We talked a lot more at this event than I read, and there were questions about my books, and one topic came up which was to do with regional things that I put in the book and how I get away with using certain names that I've used. And I mentioned how I'd included Lucy Meacock's name in Indisputably Doris, despite the fact I knew that she probably isn't as well known outside of the Manchester area from, you know, Granada reports and that sort of thing. Then I said, but if people don't know something, they can always Google it, which this older lady says that she Googles everything. And out of that spun this entire debate about LGBTQIA presentation on the television, and I had no idea how it happened. There were some choice things said by certain people there. Me, the librarian, my cousin was there, we're looking at each other trying to figure out how we can bring this back around to my books without offending absolutely everybody in the library, wondering just what to do. And eventually I said, you're just going to have to say, we should get Charles to read some more. Sorry, as we all know, I like being called Charlie. I prefer being called Charlie. But for professional purposes, I am Charles. And so she did that. And for that, I read some of An Heir to Murder. But I'm also doing that to try and force them to bring me back for more events, because as we know, as well as trying to sell more books, I'm also trying to get people to borrow more of my books from the libraries. Either way, event went well, sold a few copies of my books, ended up staying for half an hour after and chatting to folk about what's coming up next and that sort of thing. And yeah, then went back to my nan's and had a Nescafe decaf unsweetened cappuccino with her, and we had a nice long chat, and she said she wants to read my An Heir to Murder, so that's nice because I didn't know that she'd read Our Doris. I thought that she'd completely ignored the fact that that existed, so that was nice to hear. And then I came home and someone had parked where I usually park, and so I had to park on another road, and even though it was snowing this morning, I decided that I was walking down to my car and moving my vehicle because I just don't like it. I just don't like not being able to see my car. I spend most of my day at the front window because that's where I've got my computer. It annoys my brother no end because I'm there typing away, working on stuff, and he'd like to be able to eat his dinner there. But there's a whole table there. They can clean that up. That's all I'm going to say on the matter. If you didn't notice, there's not a load of stuff in the background, so I actually have been in my bedroom for over an hour waiting to record, but I decided that I would tidy this off first. I have the parcels waiting now to be sent. I'll see thee when I see thee, and I'll try not to leave it so long next time. It's Wednesday. Today hasn't amounted to much, really. I just went into town and purchased some books for the BookTube prize. I went to Waterstones with the intention of getting all of the books that are in this round for me to read. However, I only came away with 3 of the 6. I did actually find a copy of one of the books that I was supposed to get, but it was that badly damaged I chose not to take it. Indeed, there are 2 books here that were also damaged, but I decided that I could cope with that. And then I got to the counter and this amounted to 60 quid, and I wish I'd just said, do you know what, let's put the damaged ones back, but I didn't, so let's go. Firstly, I have Women Talking by Miriam Toews, or Toews, I can't pronounce this name. Such a Fun Age by Kiley, Reid, The Dutch House by Patchett. The other book that I went out looking for was Ghost Wall by Sarah Moss, and I'm going to have to order that off the internet or hope it comes into the library. Then I also got Fleche by Mary Jean Chan, and then I have Death Republic by Ilya Kaminsky. And them's the books. Last night I did finish reading Night Boat to Tangier. If that's the last book I read in January, then that's a good thing. And so yeah, that's about it now. I've shown you the books that I bought. I've told you what I read, so I'll see you tomorrow. I'm aware that I'm looking particularly bulky today, which isn't nice. I noticed this as well in a photo that Congleton Library put online of me. It just looked as though it was showing off these huge masses of fat that weren't on my stomach. So that was fun. I had hoped to actually be able to share that photo on Instagram or something, because I'm on Instagram now. I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. My sister keeps laughing at me because she says it's like watching a grandfather try and figure out technology, and that is true. I accidentally clicked on something. Apparently it was a story. It started playing, well, it might have started playing music. It was showing music. I don't know. I don't understand it. Sometimes I click on something and I end up thinking I'm going to somebody's profile and then it'll just start showing me pictures. Makes no sense to me. Either way, I'm there. I haven't updated you since Wednesday simply because I couldn't have found the time yesterday. I always like to have at least brushed my teeth before I make a video. My toothbrush was on charge, and by the time it had finished charging and I'd brushed my teeth, it was time for me to leave. Sorry, not sorry. I have finished reading Women Talking by Miriam Toews, and I read a poetry collection yesterday called Deep Fields by Philip Gross. Honestly, found myself astounded. Each poem deals with the theme, and they're separate poems, but similar to a story, a novel I suppose, they are all about this theme and they build upon the last thing. Also, there's confusion there and language misuse, and so I was enthralled by that. Today I am at work. I have asked for tomorrow off work simply because it is my nephew's birthday this weekend, and so they're coming down from Northumberland tomorrow. Do we address the whole Brexit thing, or do I allow more politically minded people to get on with that? It's happening. Can't do about it currently because we've got a giant mophead in charge, but what can you do? I decided to stick with an Heir to Murder with the green bit down the spine. I can always change it later, there can always be a second edition with a different cover, but I liked it. I've had to make that live on Amazon and I'm not happy about it because it's over a week before the launch, but I need author copies to sell, and CreateSpace used to allow you to purchase all your copies yourself and then you could put them online on the actual release date. I can't do that and it irks me. Plans for today are that I'm in work until 5 and then I'll arrive home between 5:30 and 6. Last night, I couldn't really sleep because my father was vomiting. He was poorly, I'll give him that, but every time he gets poorly, he has to try and make as much noise as possible so that everyone knows he's poorly in the hopes that someone will get up and see him. And it's like, what do you expect us to do? Honestly, I'm not being mean, I know it sounds mean, but what do you expect us to do? Hold your hair? He hasn't got much. So he's just walking around yelling at everyone, I'm dying, oh God, I'm dying. And it's like, you're not, you're poorly. You've been poorly for a while. You're going to continue to be poorly. There's no we can do about it. That's the mantra for this week. No I can do about it. I had that to contend with, as well as the thing that, I don't know whether anyone else does it, but I find it difficult to sleep whenever I'm in work because I'm worried about oversleeping. Oh, silly. Oh, and a silly. So, I'm going to be wrapping up this vlog here. As you can see, I've just recorded my January wrap-up. That should be online either before this video or after this video. I'm not too sure. But after we spoke yesterday, I went into work, and about 2 hours into work, I got a phone call, and it turned out it was the Macclesfield Express, and they had some questions to ask me because I asked whether they would do an article about my launch and an heir to murder. They said yes, and then they began with the questions. Now, I had previously been asked questions in a string of emails that I'd got, and they were saying how they wanted to keep it local, so, you know, what local ties did I have? And obviously, lived in this town my entire life. But what can you do? So firstly, they asked me where I went to school. Now, this is one that I hate them asking because I'm 27. Right? There isn't a single person at my primary school, teacher or otherwise, who is going to know me. I left that school in 2003, right? No teachers there that I knew. No children there that I went to school with. Because, bloody hell, that's, what, 16 years ago? Right? Wasn't happy about that. And then the high school one I don't understand either, because once again, I know that there aren't any teachers there, or if there are, there's only a few. And I don't understand this need to constantly put where I went to school in. They're already putting the name of the street I live on in, and I'm not happy about that because, you know, online, I don't need this sort of thing in my life. I already have the bit of agoraphobia about me. I don't need people knowing where I live and where I went to school. That's all I have to say about the matter. They then start asking me questions about Doris, and I was like, but the book's not about Doris. They asked the question and I answered it, and I said that they said, is Doris set in Macclesfield? I said, well, no, it's set in an area inspired by Macclesfield and the surrounding areas, which is what I've always said. And then they asked me how old Doris was. Is she in her 50s? I was like, no, she's in her 70s. Like, this is all information that they've got in their previous articles that I've had them send me before, so I can check what they've said, which is the whole reason I didn't have them do this for Doris Ahoy, because I read what they wrote for Indisputably Doris, and they didn't originally send me that. I had to find it myself, and I found it. It had lies in it. It had stuff I'd never said in that, and they twisted words, and I wasn't happy about it then. But I really want an heir to murder to do well. I need to make some money. I'm not being funny, but that is the truth of the matter. So I went with this, and then they said, well, what inspired you to write about older people? And I didn't want to get into this all again. These are all questions that I've answered on here, so I won't bore you with them. But I said the way it was written, I put it in an email that must have been sent years ago, because I didn't talk about Doris in my original email for an heir to murder. So they've either gone on my website or found this information, done a tiny bit of journalism, so more power to them. And they said, we've put in that you were inspired by Victoria Wood and Alan Bennett. I was like, right, I wasn't for this book actually, but what can you do? You clearly don't know what you're talking about, mate, but fine. So he says, what inspired the way you told the story? And I said, well, actually, I was inspired by the way my nan and her generation used to tell stories. And then he says, what was her name? I was like, right, this is great. I'm not so old that, like, all my grandparents are dead yet. I've got one left, touch wood. And so then he asks her name. So I give the name, but like, so he says, is her name Heathcote? I was like, no, but I don't need, like, this isn't me being ungrateful to my family, because my family are incredibly supportive of my writing as a career, but my family don't have anything to do with the book's release. My mum reads the books, and that's it. That's why her name goes in the acknowledgements. She comes to events with me, and she sells books for me when she comes to events, and I need to go off and do other things. That's fine. So that's why her name goes in the acknowledgements of each book. But I don't want my family's names mentioned in the article. Why is it so difficult for them to understand this? Now, I know it's only a local newspaper, and maybe I'm thinking too much about it, but I have had YouTubers in the past contact me to say that they found my street name and the names of my family online, and it's like, no. Like, I release the information I want to release on here, on Facebook, in other places. If I know you, then I allow you to befriend me on Facebook, but that's about it. Instagram, Twitter, all that. I accidentally said my nephew's name once on YouTube and had to figure out how to cut the video down to remove his name from it. That's how strict I am about making these two things separate. So I wasn't happy that he asked for her name, and I also feel like you can't say no, because then they might pull the article. And then, so I've not even talked about the new book at all. He says, I'm writing it as we talk, and then he reads me the first line, and it says, a young writer inspired by Victoria Wood and Alan Bennett is releasing his first crime story. Story. It's a novel, mate. It's a novel. We all know the word novel. You could have even used the word book. But story? You're supposed to be a journalist. Are they just employing any Tom, Dick or Harry who comes in off the street now? I'm telling you what, not gonna lie, I went back into the shop when he'd finished and said he got all the information he needed, and I was fuming because he hadn't mentioned my book at all. He's found, you know, he's including all the stuff I don't want included in, and the way that I know that they won't include this, they won't do the story if I don't tell them this stuff, is because I've got a writer friend who was releasing their first book, went to the papers, and they would not put her article in because she wouldn't give them her family's names. And yeah, maybe I don't have the same integrity, but the only name I gave them was my grandmother, and luckily she doesn't live around these parts. I've actually been having a go about this article for over a day now, and I'm waiting to see whether it gets printed, and if it gets printed, I've decided if they tell any more lies, we are doing a video on this channel. I'm going through all the articles that have been written about me, which aren't many, so it won't take long, and we're going to talk about all the lies they told, all the times that they twisted my words, because trust me, it's what makes me dislike the newspapers a lot. And I know that I shouldn't say that I should rely on them because of, and be kind to them because they're giving me this opportunity that they don't have to give me. But for crying out loud, at least get the facts straight and appreciate the information that I've chosen to give you and not go digging for more information that I didn't want you to have. Then I came home and my dad was ill. I mentioned, we found out on Christmas Eve some bad news regarding his health, and he hasn't been the same since. We've had a few times having to take him to the hospital, and last night my mum had to take him again. They wanted him to stay in, but he wouldn't stay in simply because there were a lot of people there throwing up, and he'd much prefer not to be, when he's ill, he doesn't want to be in with the risk of catching norovirus as well as having what he's already got, which I appreciate. He's got the pills, they let him bring pills home, so that's fine. I was trying to get an Heir to Murder sorted again, but they've rejected the cover again. And so, yeah. I read Fleche by Mary Jean Chan. This morning I got up because I'm off work today because it's my nephew's birthday and I wanted to spend some time with him on his birthday, give him his gifts. I started reading Such a Fun Age by Kiley Reid. I'm currently 60 pages into this. This woman called Amira is a babysitter and she gets stopped by a security guard when visiting the supermarket because they believe she's kidnapped her employer's child because the child is white and our protagonist Amira is black. I can't talk much about this because it is a BookTube prize book, but I will say that I saw a review on Instagram from Jessie of Bow Ties and Books, and it's left me feeling more hopeful about this one. And then this morning, I was having a bit of a bath, and I started reading library books and charity shop books in the bath because I don't mind damaging them so much. And so I started Blue Monday by Nicci French and immediately got terrified because there is a missing child at the beginning of this book called Joanna. It shouldn't take me too long. It's 400 pages. What's that? 200 minutes? So what, 3 hours and a bit? Yeah, not long at all. Could have this done. We'll just say last night I did spend a lot of time listening to Dua Lipa's Physical, as in I kept going back and listening to the song. When I first heard the clip, I didn't think I was going to like it, and then for whatever reason, it's got an earworm in there that just hooked me in, whatever you want to call it, and I ended up listening to that a lot. As I kept going back to it, I think I listened to it about an hour last night of one song. That's me for the week. I hope that you've actually enjoyed this week. I hope it's not been too samey, too horrible. We've only got 1 week left before an Heir to Murder releases, and things aren't quite going to plan, so mildly terrified. But my biggest fear at the moment is when I will ever get a light to put here to illuminate these videos so I don't look like I'm talking in such darkness. And don't say I should open these curtains, because I opened these curtains and I had no face left. It was gone. This is the problem when you've got mildly vampiric genes. Anyway, I'll be starting vlogging again properly tomorrow. You'll probably see me next Sunday for another one of these videos. I hope that you got something out of this video besides sheer boredom. And until next time, that is all.